Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku had a holiday at UA Part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see Part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃. So let's start the video. Izuku's POV. I knew when I got the call from my mum that she was going on a work trip for 2 months. Right during the holidays she would find one way or another for me to be monitored so that she would not leave me alone by myself for weeks, leaving me, the house and the streets to my own devices. Okay, it wasn't my fault. Not really. I went out on the streets the one time I was left alone before. I was 9. Okay, that probably makes it worse. But still, I just wanted to find my mum because she was gone past 8, which she's never done before. It also wasn't my fault when I got into the middle of a robbery situation with a man with a ski mask holding a knife to a young woman with me standing half frightened and confused in the middle. Well, in the end the robber was just a middle-aged man desperate for money. I ended up showing him a convenience store that he could work at as it had a small sign that asked for help for the last couple months. I used to walk by the store often when walking to and from school. The store owner probably just needed a bigger sign to attract some teenager that wanted a job. Well, fortunately for us the job offer was still open and the man was able to get it without any qualifications and proper certificates. Let's just say when my mum came home from a small errand to find 9-year-old me with the lady that I apparently saved standing in front of the house, she promised herself that she wouldn't leave me unmonitored again. I don't see what the problem is really. The man didn't even use his knife and was happy to just talk it out. The lady didn't even call the police and just accepted the apology the man gave and walked me home. Even after that the man was very nice. He used to let me take medical supplies for free when I needed them and didn't have enough pocket money. He's now even the manager of the store as the old manager retired. All in all, I would say that was a situation that led to the benefits of many people. The man wasn't stabbed or robbed from, the man got a new job, the store got a new worker, and I got supplies for when I got hurt by bullies. But really I would have been fine on my own. I'm 16 now. I know not to randomly walk onto the streets in the middle of the night, but like the overprotective, caring and absolutely amazing way my mum is, she was not going to let that happen. But it was probably for the best. I would not have been able to promise that I wouldn't have gone out at night to get some parkour and gymnastics experience on some low rooftops. I've been working on it, but with UA's security I can't really practice on school grounds or roofs after school hours, so that's left me with practicing when I get time in between heroics or PE lessons. Anyway, normally she would have made me stay with 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃 in Kacchan's house. I wasn't looking forward to that. Don't get me wrong, I love auntie and uncle and even Kacchan, I really do. But I didn't really want to spend a whole month and a half with Kacchan, especially with how short his temper gets when I'm around. So I was almost happy when she said she was going to talk to UA to ask if there was any chance I would be allowed to stay in the dorms during the holidays before asking aunt and uncle. Almost, because I really didn't want to bother Principal Nizu or the rest of my teachers. I do that enough while school's on, right? Anyway, I imagined that the school would be busy, or have no one to monitor me for 6 whole weeks. They would say, "Sorry, thanks for the queries, but unfortunately school cannot be open for one student for the whole holidays." You would think that the school had work and couldn't be bothered to keep an eye on a student during their staff's time of rest from kids, right? Like every other school, they wouldn't bother to take care of another child. So, I was prepared to live in my childhood friend and ex-best friend's house while hiding my presence and making myself as small and unnoticeable as best as possible. Don't get me wrong, Kacchan isn't that bad anymore. We still can't hold a conversation that much, but as long as I don't annoy him with muttering to myself or something, we're able to sit in the same room together without him attempting to blow me up or setting the house on fire. Plus it would have been good practice of hiding my presence anyway, but like UA's proved again and again, it's not like other schools. Mum's email was answered with an email stating that it understands the problem and it would have no issues with me staying there for the holidays and to just bring anything I wanted to have or do with me to the dorms, and that my homeroom teacher will be able to keep an eye on me. It also said for extra information I could ask said homeroom teacher, Mr. Izuku, to fill me in about my stay. That of course led me where I'm here today, turning into a stuttering mess when Mr. Izuku called me over after class to fill me in. I maybe apologized about 10 times, told him that it was okay if I couldn't stay in the dorms and I could just stay at home 5 times and apologies another 3 times for making him stay at dorms and give him extra work until Mr. Izawa was able to stop my rapid half-talking and muttering to explain. It turns out he was going to stay at the dorms either way along with Principal Nizu and all the other teachers, and he was working and doing paperwork at school the entire time anyway. He also said that if I was really worried about being a problem I could work on not breaking any bones, not blowing up the building, and causing him too much trouble during my stay. He did also say in a voice hinting maybe just a touch of concern and fondness. Now that I think over it I was probably just imagining that if I did however need help with something important I could ask. I was also told that I would not be able to leave school grounds as I will need supervision to go out and all the teachers will be busy and that food, snacks and ingredients will be provided to the dorms. However, to my biggest surprise and delight, he also said that I could use the school gyms, training rooms, school library and any other rooms and areas I was allowed in before to my full disposal. Of course I was delighted and thanked him twice, said that I won't disturb anyone and maybe also apologized once because of the bother I was being. And just maybe it was because of the apology I said that Mr. Izawa said that I wouldn't need to worry and that some people like Mia Hatsumi and the girls and some boys from Class A1 had asked to use school facilities like the support classes design and manufacturing rooms and the pool during the holidays. He also mentioned that the school was not only going to be like a childcare for me and my classmates the entire holidays but also Eri. At that moment I felt so stupid, how could I forget about it? Well, after that initial shock I was able to tune in to hear that Mirio-senpai and the rest of the big three will be popping in when they could to take care of Eri. He also said that Eri will be out most days to attend a safe childcare area where she could play so I won't need to look after her. But the few days where she is here and I'm free I'm expected to at least keep her with me as she looks up to me and likes me a lot. Of course I shook my head vigorously with a too loud of a yes as Mr. Izawa's eye twitched at. I immediately apologized while letting my mind wander. Eri is an absolute angel, she would never bother me, and though I do have some plans during the holidays I'll never be too busy for her. I snapped my head up to meet Mr. Izawa's eyes as he sighed. Problem child, UA is a world-famous hero school, and staying during the holidays you'll see that most times it's almost as busy than when it's actually open. Many people and heroes will be passing though, so make sure to be on your best behavior still, he said with a hint of another sigh. And, I just remembered that I have the free use of dialogue grinning face, sweat. Yes, Mr. Izawa, I said determinedly answering with a lower tone than last time. Go on, get out of here. And don't slack if you still have 2 days of school left. I'm expecting to still see your full effort for the rest of your classes, Mr. Izawa said. Yes, sir. Bye, I'll be going now, thank you. I said turning around and exiting the classroom as fast as I can without running. Closing the door I let out a breath of relief. Guess I can avoid disturbing the teachers for the most part, and I can even spend time with Eri. These holidays aren't going to be that bad, I thought happily. Hey. Deku-kun, you're okay. I was really worried when Mr. Izawa called you over after class. I thought you were in trouble, but you're never in trouble. But you seem to have made it out all right, Uraraka-san said as she ran over to be a bit breathless. Yes, I'm glad you seem to be all right. You weren't in trouble, were you? Said Lita as he strolled up behind Uraraka work with chopping hand motions, followed by Todoroki-kun who nodded asking the same. Thanks for worrying, and I was fine. I'm not in trouble yet, it's just that my mum's gone on a business trip for the holidays so I'll be staying at the dorms. Mr. Izawa was just filling me in on what I'm allowed to do. I said with a smile. What? Both Uraraka and Lita exclaimed. You never told us about that. Uraraka-san said. Well, I just found out about 3 days ago and it's only been confirmed about a day ago, plus I didn't think it was that important, and sorry did I say something wrong? I said trailing off at their expressions. Are you going to be okay? Being here for the whole holiday. You won't have any company, came quietly from Todoroki-kun as both Lita and Uraraka-san nodded. I smiled warmly, thanks for worrying, really I'll be fine though. I also found out that Eri will be here so I'm planning on spending some time with her and I also have a bunch of other things planned to keep me occupied, I said as I slowly started walking backwards towards the exit surfing them on. Okay, if you say so. If you ever want company just send a text and I'll see to visit for the day, okay. Uraraka said. Yes, indeed, Lita added while Todoroki-kun nodded. Thanks, I said as I turned myself around with momentum, hiding the slight blush that was creeping up into my face. I'm really glad to be here with these friends, I thought as we made our way back to the dorms. 𝗬𝗪𝗏 POV. As slow as it seemed, the last 2 days of school came to an end. Everyone's suitcases were packed and most of their rooms tidied up for when they returned, everyone except one person, of course. The sky was pitch dark as the clock struck 10:59, everyone asleep or laying in their bed scrolling on their phone or reading, enjoying the peace that came with the long holiday. That is everyone, except one first-year student. He too was in his dorms, but instead of getting ready for bed he sat there scribbling in data of different quirks of more heroes. His hand and part of his brain ran on autopilot as the other half created plans. Izuku's POV. My hand was scribbling down info. I however was thinking about what I could do during the holidays. I had many plans for the holidays, being in school however was not one of them. The things I planned should still be doable here, actually more because of all the facilities. I just have to be careful not to disturb anyone. Okay, it's decided, let's play a game of hide and seek. If no one ever sees me I can't bother them, and it's extra training with all the pro heroes even if they aren't searching for me, I guess. Well, tomorrow's the first day, so let's stick to schedule, and after that I can focus on working on the gymnastics moves and maybe even some parkour if I can get into the training rooms. Sounds solid. I'll have to see if I can get away with these things while Principal Nis is watching. Finishing the train of thought, just as I finished the page of analysis I was working on, I got up, stretching my arms above my head and yawning. Pushing my chair in as I got up, I pulled my hoodie sleeves over my hands to keep them warm. Opening my door, I walked out with my indoor slippers, focusing on keeping my presence low while not making a sound while walking. Mr. Aizawa should still be in the dorms, and I really did not feel like talking or ruining this peaceful silence with any type of sound really. Reaching the bottom stairs, I walked over to the kitchen, turning the kettle on and taking out a teacup from the shelf, a tea bag from the shared area, the milk carton from the fridge, and a packet of sugar from the drawer as I waited for the water to boil. I was enjoying the peace as the kettle turned off, indicating it was ready. Filling the cup up to 3/4, I placed the tea bag, swirling it around with a spoon. After all the flavor was soaked up by the water, I took the tea bag out, throwing it into the bin. I quickly added 2 gulps of milk and a packet of sugar into the cup and led it around a couple of times with the spoon. Placing the spoon into the dishwasher and taking the cup, I swiftly and quietly headed upstairs, again focusing on hiding my presence and footsteps. And, guys, what I'm doing, I don't even know if that's how you make tea. Someone help me, loudly crying face. Well, let's continue. Enjoy the pace, I guess. Spoiler, there is not going to be too much action in this. Heading back into my room, I closed the door while opening the door to my balcony. Sitting on the balcony floor, as it was quite clean except for some dust, I waited, letting my eyes unfocus and my mind wander while blindly staring at the stars and moon. About an hour or two later I heard a sound. It was faint, but if you were looking for it you wouldn't miss it. I watched as I saw my homeroom teacher head out though the first floor window nearest to his office/dorm room, walking towards the school gates and heading out to his patrol like every day. Mr. Aizawa's heading out, that means it's already 11:30. I wasted some time, guess that fine, seeing I'll be busy during the holidays anyway, might as well relax for now. I thought as I got up, brushed my teeth and headed to bed while setting my alarm for 5. You might be thinking that 5:30 hours is not enough sleep, however I assure you I'm fine and I definitely do not have insomnia. Okay, I think that 𝗧𝗪𝗏 for explanation. I can sleep with not problems, actually quite the opposite, I can sleep easily with no problems. I've however been training my body since I was little to need less sleep so I would have more time to analyze and read books. So it's my pleasure to inform that after years of training my body I can survive a day and fully function with 2 hours of sleep. It's probably not healthy, but it can come useful during exam times. Hours later I woke up, reaching over to turn off my alarm and dragging myself off to the bathroom. I stood there in front of the mirror groggily, that is for a few minutes before I remembered what it was. My eyes lit up and grabbing my brush and toothpaste with a new energy I got ready and headed downstairs. Just as I entered I saw some of the class's early risers. Kacchan was cooking himself steamed rice, nori, fish and miso soup, while others were also preparing themselves a light breakfast or just buttering and jamming a piece of toast. I smiled and waved to both 𝗧𝗧 and Todoroki-kun while I joined the kitchen to get myself some toast and eggs. Normally 𝗧𝗧-kun and Kacchan would be out on their morning runs/jogs, however everyone was leaving at 7 today, so they were ready to leave. Finishing getting everything, I made my way over to table to sit and talk quietly to Todoroki-kun as to not ruin the morning silence. Even 𝗧𝗧-kun seemed to get the message to not make too much noise and ruin the good mood as Kacchan sat on the couch to eat his breakfast. Kacchan, however, didn't escape the disappointed frown sent his way, to which he just rolled his eyes at. 2 hours later, everyone stood in the shared living room as Mr. Izuku went over some standard warnings and reminders to behave well and not get into trouble over the holidays. As everyone started to make their way out, 𝗧𝗧, Uraraka, and Todoroki-kun made their way over to me to say bye. Please take care of the dorms while everyone's out, Midoriya. And remember to take care of yourself. And act as a upstanding UA student. 𝗧𝗧 said with a motivated voice. I think Deku-kun gets that, 𝗧𝗧, Uraraka said with a sigh, but a bit of amusement did shine through her eyes. Bye, Deku, remember what I told you yesterday. If you want company, just send over a text. And have a good holiday, she said, turning to me. Of course, thanks, have a good holiday and see you later, I said, waving as we reached the outside, and the three of them started heading to the gates. Goodbye, Midoriya, see you later, Todoroki-kun said as he waved. After watching them walk away, I turned and headed back to the dorms, only heading in to see Mr. Izuku making a coffee for himself. This confused me as teacher had their own kitchen. Shrugging the though away, I smiled and said a quick, yes sir, as he warned me to not cause too much trouble, before walking up the stairs and to my dorm. About 20 minutes later, I was standing outside with a notebook and a pencil. Though as I stretched my arms and back, time for a run. Placing my book and pencil into my inner jacket pocket, I started a light jog. It took me about an hour and a half to do a run of the whole school while watching out and noting the school security cameras and any blind spots. Of course there were very few. I would expect nothing less of the world's smartest being. There were some, but I wouldn't put it past Principal Nizu to have done those on purpose. Anyway, the run-through of the land wasn't too eventful. When I planned to note down the entire school and any shortcuts, I was expecting to find some type of shortcut, but I guess I wasn't expecting to find much on the lands I've already inspected and walked through many times. Next stop is the forest, I thought excitedly. I train there with all might all the time, but I've never gone full deep into it. After a quick drink, I made my way to the forest. Talking about the forest, I never understood why UA needed a whole forest inside its grounds. It's not even used except for the few people who like to self-train, or if you're Mei Hasumi, to test her inventions there. I was letting my mind wander as I made my way to the forest, enjoying the sound of light breeze, the leaves rustling, and a meowing sound calling to me. Wait, a meowing sound. Is there a cat? I whipped my head around searching for where the sound came from. I might not see it, but I'm a big fan of animals. It wasn't really specific. I liked both cats and dogs. I whipped my head around, finally locating the sound. It was a cat. A really small one, a kitten. Pushing my excitement aside, confusion overcame my mind. The kitten was standing just outside the gates, which was strange as most animals would either try to enter activating the security doors. Yes, I found out the ridiculously large doors not only block out humans but also animals like small insects, which is smart as there could be many people with transformation quirks but still kind of too cautious. But who am I to talk even with all that? The LOV was still able to infiltrate anyway. Anyway, back for the kitten, it was just standing there meowing and staring. I noticed with a jolt, right at me. I headed over to the kitten, fully stepping just out of the gates and crouching down to the kitten's level. The kitten sat there staring at me for a bit before making its way to me and letting me pat its head. Hello, little one. Who do you belong to? I said as I noticed that a kitten this tame could not be a stray. Hello, little one. Who do you belong to? I said as I noticed that a kitten this tame could not be a stray. Meow, it said clearly. I stared into its dark bluish-gray eyes with a questioning look. I can't bring you in. What if you're an intruder with a transformation quirk? I said, though unlikely there's a chance. Well, that was before it looked straight into my eyes, and its eyes glowed a dark blue as I saw it disappear right before my eyes. WhatIf? I said as it reappeared, clinging onto my top while sitting on my shoulder. A quirked animal. All for One is still in Tartarus. He couldn't have given someone two quirks right. Would you like to stay with me? I asked it, probably out of my better judgment. Meow, it said in a much happier tone as it settled into my shoulder. Okay, then guess you're coming with me, seeing you don't look like you're planning on getting off anytime soon. Would you like to plot out the school forest with me? I said. The kitten replied with a small meow. Well, I guess I'm going to have more company than I thought these holidays, I thought as I started walking in a slightly faster phase. And plotting out the forest we did. It was a 2-hour hike/walk all around the forest, roughly sketching out the forest in my notebook while I rabbled about random plants, animal and nature facts to the kitten. It was a bit easier that I've wandered through the forest a bit before. Let's just say if someone asked, I wouldn't be able to truthfully say I haven't gone on a midnight stroll some nights to clear my mind. I knew it was past curfew, but if I never got caught, no one ever needs to know, right? The kitten seemed content on sitting on my shoulder and snuggling up to my neck while happily listening and meowing at my random facts and mumbles. It was nice to have someone who listened. It was like that until we reached a clearing spot about 30 minutes deep from the start of the forest. The spot was just short grass and a big tree off to the side in the middle of the thick forest. We both sat and had a 5-minute break as it was nearing 11 o'clock. Okay, let's get some work done, I said, getting up. The kitten sat up from my neck and jumped down as if knowing what I would be doing next. For the next 4 hours I stretched and did some simple gymnastics and acrobatic moves. Let's just say after the festival and Mina's dance lessons I found out how bad my flexibility was and also managed to develop an interest in doing flexible and solid moves. So yes, for the past months I've been working on getting my body more flexible, and I'm proud to say that I can hold a handstand on a tightrope for at least 15 minutes. Do not ask how I was able to test that. It might or might not have been the result of breaking another curfew and getting a close shave with UA's security cameras and drones. I know it's for safety, but sometimes I want to curse Principal Nizu's security. Heading back to the tree, I found my notebook, pencil, jumper, phone, and a sleeping kitten. That was no longer sleeping. Whispering sorry, I started picking up my stuff and pulling my jumper on. I smiled as the kitten jumped onto my shoulder. Animals are not allowed in the dorms, but again, what the teachers won't find out won't hurt them. As we reached the edge of the forest, I said, "Hey kitten, would you mind hiding in my pocket? Just until we get to my dorm room. I should also pick out a name for you, shouldn't I? We can think of one when we get back." As if the kitten understood, it responded with a meow as it got up, using its claws to steadily walk into my hoodie pocket using my arm I positioned as a bridge. And I was very glad I hid the kitten, because the moment I inside the dorms I came face to face with Mr. Izuku, marking the last of the class tests while facing the door. Let's just say the air did not feel too welcome and I could feel a scolding coming along. As soon as I stepped inside, he looked up and said, "Hello, problem child, would you like to tell me if you've eaten any food for the past 8 hours? I blinked a few times. Whatever I was expecting, it wasn't this. "I ate some edible flowers," I replied hesitantly and relying with a question. "I don't really care what you do, but taking care of for health for the holidays is a must. You cannot just forget to eat," he said while activating his quirk and glaring at me. I gulped and shook my head, saying I understood. He deactivated his quirk with a sigh. "Good night, problem child. Do not disturb me unless the dorms are on fire, there are villains attacking, or you dying. And for the love of God, please eat something. I did not let you live this long in training for you to die of dehydration and low food intake," he said as he touring of his computer, took his worksheets and headed to the elevator, unsurprisingly to probably take a nap before his patrol. "Yes, Mr. Izuku, understand," I said as he waved me off while the elevator door closed. Internally sighing as the elevator descended and reached its destination, I said, "You can come out now," and went to the kitchen to prepare a lunch and a bowl of milk and water for the kitten I learned was suitable for kittens when researching how to take care of kittens earlier today, unsurprised when the kitten appeared out of nowhere on my shoulder again. Heading into my dorm, I set the bowl of milk and water now with little chunks of bread on the floor. I ate my lunch/dinner while half watching the kitten lick up the milk and bread and half watching a video of the number 2 hero, Hawks, taking out some burglars. Plus, overall, the first day of the holidays went quite peacefully, I thought, as I went to sleep with the kitten, who was now newly named Luna after it was discovered she was a girl, on my chest. Izuku's POV. I was heading back to 𝗬's dorms from a patrol. My patrol ended early as the area I was watching had another large-scale mission taking place which I was apparently not needed for, so I got sent back early. I really need a raise for all the bullshit the 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗁 puts me through, I thought, with the full intent of going in and drinking a large cup of coffee and taking the longest nap my insomnia and schedule will allow me to. And if coffee being my favorite drink contributed to my sleep schedule or lack of one, no one needed to know. Finally reaching the dorms, I headed over to the backside to enter by the window. Only to find a light on in my absolute favorite problem child's room. Please notice the sarcasm. He though and sarcasm or not, we all know it's true. What is he doing up at 2:30 in the morning? I grumbled internally while making my way to his dorm room. I walked up to the door, full intent on knocking, until I heard some muttering talking in full speed about gas bombs. What gases can knock out people for how long? Vents. And Nizu. From what I could distinguish from the full-speed hurricane of words. Snapping my arm back to my side, I turned a full 90 degrees before starting to head back to my room via the stairs to not alert problem child. Nope. Not today. No, just no, I thought as I crept away. I knew better than to get involved in a person with that train of thought. Especially if that train contained Nizu. Nothing, and I mean nothing good, comes from being anywhere near a meter from where his name is. Internally sighing again as I remembered he's my boss and I have a meeting with him in approximately 6 hours, but until that I'm free, and no, I'm not going to ask about whatever problem child is planning to do in my longest hours of peace I have. Izuku's POV. If someone asked me what I was doing up at 2 in the morning, I probably won't be able to answer them. I don't really know how to tell someone that 4 hours of sleep was more than enough for me, seeing I didn't do that much physical activity yesterday and that my mind was overactive from the excitement of seeking though all of UA's vent system to be able to find the quickest routes around the building, that is without them thinking I belong in a mental institution. Anyway, that though led me into thinking about if all the UA vents were connected, that it would be easy to knock out every person in the building, at least the people without gas masks or the ability to make them looking at you Momo, and then that the smartest being in the world would have already thought about that, and then on to wondering about what types of gases could knock out people and for how long. Then on to the fact if I could ask Mia if she should make some gas bombs that could put people to sleep onto my costume, and, well, you get the point. The though escalated. But Luna seemed happy to listen to my randomly spouting thoughts as I got ready for the day. About 30 minutes later, both me and Luna were fed, watered, and ready, but sadly for us it was only 3 a.m. Am I allowed to go into the school building before school hours? Mr. Izuku did say I was allowed to go where I was before, but he never said anything about what times I was allowed to be there. Sitting down with a sigh, I let my excitement calm down a bit. Okay, what if it's too early right now? I can just keep myself busy until it's a more, well, godly hour in the morning. Getting up and leaving Luna on my bed, I sat in the middle of the room and started doing some warm-ups and a light workout. Starting with some light stretching and moving on to my whole routine of sit-ups, push-ups, planks and pull-ups using my door frame. Then moving on to things I'm not working on, like air bicycling and a timed handstand, all while reading an online book about types of gas and liquid poison. No good, I thought 3 hours later as I finished my second book about poisons and ways to cure them. Well, 6 is better than 3, I thought as I grabbed my notebook and phone while Luna promptly jumped into my dark green hoodie pocket. Grabbing a peanut butter and chocolate nut bar as I made my way outside via the window and pipes. The backside of the dorms was closer to the school building in my defense. Yep, that's the only reason, and not because I don't want to get caught or face a grumpy Mr. Izuku that just got back from patrol in the dorm kitchen. My eyebrows shot up in surprise as the large school doors opened as I tried them, and surprisingly they weren't even squeaky. Well, maybe not so much seeing it's the #1 school, but getting off topic here. Guess I should expect Principal Nizu to get to school early, seeing he would probably have the most work to do. Quietly making my way into the halls. That looked so much bigger and scarier without being populated or lit with sunlight or light. The morning yellow sunlight was making its way into the halls. Making sure I could be seen by the school cameras, mainly so Principal Nizu could kick me out if he wanted to, and so I couldn't be told off for hiding and doing things in secret. Not that there were any vents with no security in the whole building, the rats too smart for that. I stopped walking as I neared a vent right in front of me in the ceiling. Okay, now or never, right Lou? I said as I put a hand to 𝗵𝘃𝗲 head, in which she quietly mewled. Taking the thin fishing wire and weight that I tied together and prepared that morning out of my pocket, as to where I got them from, let's just say some of Class A1's shopping sprees got quite random. I thought about the weight and waited until the line and weight flew through the vent's bars quietly and circled itself though a couple times. Giving it a tug, I watched as the door fell open. Quickly jumping in, I shut the vent door. Sorry for the bumpy ride, I said to Luna after confirming that there were no cameras in the vents. This was definitely going to get attention from Nizu, hopefully not enough to get called to his office. Who am I kidding with my luck and what I'm doing right now? Well, at least I haven't got called out just yet. Who knew going through vent would be so much fun? It was great fun trying to go around and memorize the shortest routes to the parts of the school I would most likely use. And of course Nizu had though if the vents because I noticed that the staff room, his office, filing room and meeting rooms were all not connected to the vents of all the other central rooms like classroom. They most likely had their own individual ventilation system. Well, that was what I thought until I came across a path in the vents system that went straight down, and it was right next to the staff meeting room on the first floor. But the strange thing was this drop was deep and it went from the third floor. Are vents normally made in the middle of thick walls? Well, one way to find out, I thought. Mind if we go for a drop, I said. Luna apparently got the message crawled into my pocket. Okay, wish us luck, God, I thought before jumping straight down. It was a 4-second drop before I saw the red light. And not just light, I also felt the heat, as the light was the orange glow of the scalding hot metal. Was what I thought as I used the palms of my hands and soles of my shoes to finally get a grip of the thankfully still cold parts of metal and came to a stop just before the parts of the vent that were starting to flow. A bead of sweat rolled off my face as I slowly made my way back upwards. What was that devil of Satan, was Principal Nizu thinking, I thought for the 100th time as I got up to the safe cold horizontal vents. Okay, no more dropping down into unknown vents like that, and sorry for almost getting you killed, Lou, I said as the shaken kitty jumped out of my pocket. Let's just stick to the vents we already went through, just a couple more times before we finish, how's that? I question. It's replied with a definite meow from Luna. Should I have wondered about how smart a kitten Luna is? Probably, but oh well, quirked animals are new, but they're known to be smart even without intelligence quirks. 3 hours later, it took me about 3 hours to go through all the vents the first time, and another 3 to skim over them and mentally plot out the quickest escape routes. It was nearing 1 when I thought that was enough, and both of us seemed to need lunch. Going vent diving seemed like a tiresome sport, especially when that sport involved us barely getting scorched. All in all, it was going great. I had gone through all the events, succeeded in not interrupting anyone, and hadn't run into any teachers yet. That was until I saw Present Mike walk past the corridor I was walking though. I froze, for about a second before my instincts kicked in. Okay, in all honesty, I know that if I came across a teacher, even if I wasn't planning on it, the best idea would be to say hi. Apparently though my instincts didn't agree, as it made me quickly open the nearest vent after he passed and jump into it. Luna also appeared in front of me using her quirk on the other side of the vent door as we held our breath. The footsteps grew louder and I heard a muttered, "Strange, I thought I saw something," before once again proceeding further away. I let out a sigh of relief. That's enough event exploring for now, I guess, I mumbled as I popped down from the vent with Luna in the hood of my jumper, my hair and fabric covering her from cameras. After a lunch of soba for me and tuna and deleted milk for Luna in my dorm, both of us made a beeline to the training grounds where I practiced and tried out some new moves and techniques that were similar to Mina's dancing moves and Ciro's tape movements while using Black Whip. The rest of the day went with me peacefully practicing while Luna sat and watched or slept in a caved spot in the training room. As it ended with my going back to the dorms at about 7:30, thankfully missing Mr. Aizawa, eating dinner, playing with Luna, working on some analysis, and finally falling asleep at 12. Nizu POV. I rewatched the scenes where Aizawa's student and All Might's successor stared at the cameras before jumping into and out of the vents. Well, isn't that curious, I said with a smile. If Nizu put Izuku into one of his mental notes of students that had a lot of potential and took a mental note of keeping an eye on him and put him into the list of a potential partner, then no one knew. Izuku's POV. Izuku gaped. He opened his mouth then shut it again just like the last 5 times he had in the past 15 minutes. He sat there in front of the laptop in his dorm, the light morning sunlight shining though. He sat there, his round, blue light protection glasses slightly slipping down his nose. He sat there in front of the laptop that displayed large congrats and 100%. Times 20 times. That was how intelligence and grade placement tests he took. Each from a different site as well. He started early at about 7:30 at night, planning to do 1 or 2 tests so he would get a proper placement of his intelligence level before going to sleep. Most people would say, you go to one of the best hero schools, be the most intelligent creature in the world, wouldn't that be enough to give you a good idea about how smart you were? Well, yes it would, but that was only if you have the school-accurate data to evaluate. Yes, you weren't imagining it. The innocent, favorite, kind, heroic and genuine green-haired student of UA had been faking and sabotaging his own test and assignment results. Purpose getting answers wrong and lower his work quality. Why? You may ask. Well, actually that's a rather long and funny story and fully accidental choice. To properly explain it, you would need to go back to the day where his middle school teacher gave out more like throughout the career path choice sheets. In middle school, both Kacchan and him were known for always getting 100s on all their test and assignment. He has started the trend at the young age of 8, and Kacchan had made sure to study more so he could keep his streak of being the best. Because there was not way quirkless Deku could get better grade than him. Anyway, not the point. They always got good grades and nearly always got 100s except the unusual few 99s that also popped up. Kacchan got more 99s than him. Those days he would, surprisingly, miss his beating. Kacchan would be too mad and proud to beat him up because of his own mistake. He would also miss his beatings when he got a score of 99. That was mainly because he would hurry home too quickly so he could study about the mistake he made. So image his surprise when Kacchan said that he smashed UA's mock test. Everyone was of course amazed, but not him. He was shocked as well, but more at the fact that he said, smashed, not aced or perfect score, but smashed. Wouldn't that mean the same thing? He just used a different word. For all you know, he could have got 100 foot. Well, that was for the fact if he didn't know, but he did know Kacchan did not score a 100% of the mock test. How? Well, that's because he knew Kacchan. Believe him, he's been with Kacchan all his life, so he knew if Kacchan got a 100% of the mock test, then people would know. Anyway, after the fiasco of the sludge included and All Might started training him, he went into the website and took the mock exam. He also quickly understood why Kacchan didn't score a 100. The test had 150 questions ranging from general math to some more advanced questions that we definitely hadn't covered yet. And how had he known these? Well, unlike the rest of his class, he didn't have a quirk or friends, so unlike the rest of his peers in his year level, he spent a minority or his time reading and learning new things. He spent hours and hours over picking and reading and watching new things. He's probably read over 70% of the books in 10 libraries closest to him. Anyway, that was normal. Anyone else would have done the same if they didn't have anyone to spend time with. Anyway, back to the mock test. After seeing the questions, he signed out without handing in the answers. From what he knew about Principal Nizu from his research, he could be very scarce and had an eye out for people with special talents. He didn't really want to know what would happen to him if he had handed in that mock exam with correct answers to things he was definitely not meant to know. He would probably stalked and his computer hacked into. He shivered at the though. He would like his computer not hacked and his life not stalked. Thank you very much. Of course, he wasn't sure if a respectable principal would really stalk people, or if getting some questions right would get Nizu's attention, but then again the Hero Commission apparently didn't have a good grasp of UA and its heroes like it did for every other hero in the country, so he'd rather not trust his non-existent luck. So all this led to another, and he'd ended up purposely getting some questions wrong in the real exams. Just some. The ones that looked like they most definitely should not know. He didn't think that he was too good for the exams or anything. He just got enough questions right to be considered more than average. When school started and classes went back to being their age level, he could go back to not faking his scores. His assumption was, however, wrong when he was the only person in the class to get a 100 in their algorithm test at the start of the year. Kacchan only got a 92. And to top it, even Momo only got a 95. Though the test was harder than usual but not by much. He ended up playing it off as it being one of his strong suits in studies. Since then he let just a couple answers go though. He earned mostly 90 to 95, sometimes making sure to fall to the 80s. He even remembered what topics he got 80s on to play them off as his weak suits if those topics or assignments were ever given to them again. All that effort for what? Acting more stupid? You may ask. But again, that was a mistake. At some point it just became second nature to purposely get some answers wrong. He didn't think he was so smart and better than people or anything. He just didn't want people to think he was smart and give them the wrong idea. Anyway, back to the start. Placement tests. It started as a passing idea. He had many plans for the holidays to improve his hero career and learn some new things. He hadn't, however, though much about studies. So he thought that instead of just studying some random books, instead he could take some online classes. He just didn't want his brain to rust during the holidays after all. After the vent and almost getting scorched alive incident, he'd spent the last 3 days just in his dorm room, his school library, or the clearing he found in the forest with Luna. He'd also spent it considering joining online classes. He wasn't so sure yet, as it sounded like a lot of work and commitment, as the ones he checked out gave an overview of how much work they'd give if he'd joined it, be like double school. So he'd been putting off looking further into it for some time. So when he'd taken time to settle into a holiday routine, he thought that he might as well at least try doing a placement test or two. He'd planned to see how he was doing in his studies and then decide whether he wanted to join or not. So that what he did, took out his home computer and took some free placement tests for online classes. Call him paranoid, but he'd also connected his home computer to his phone data inside of the school internet just in case of any rats. But right not, he was rather glad he had, if the last 2100% as he'd got have anything to do with it. The first one he'd thought was a fluke. He'd found the first free placement test he could and done it. When the test was completed in half time and the score showed 100%, he'd been surprised but passes it as luck and took another test. By the 5th test he was unsure, by the 10th he was baffled, by the 15th he worried, by the 19th he was concerned. Was his computer rigged to only give him a 100 or something? Of course, all the answers looked easy and the question looked age-appropriate for a 10th grade student. Most sites, however, had either given him a 100 or had said that his intelligence was university level. But that couldn't be right. He couldn't be that smart from just reading some extra textbooks, could he? After the first 19 tests, he didn't quite know if he could trust the results, so he went to the most used online school platform. He'd been avoiding it as taking the placement test required money. He'd paid the $10 fee and taken the test. This website would be accurate, right? He'd been sure that he'd get a lower grade, at this point almost hoping for another number than 100. That was until he finished the test, and after 10 minutes of marking, the site sent an email congratulated him in being one of the few people who had ever gotten a perfect score on that site. He sighed. Getting up and putting his glasses away, he pulled on a jacket and walked to his dorm room, waiting just a moment for Luna to climb up into his pocket before opening the door. Maybe a jog and warm-up would clear his confusion. He spent the rest of the day doing the usual practice, reading, analyzing, and playing, with my mind half clouded with confusion and half nervousness and maybe a touch of excitement. I fell asleep with a small, content smile. The thoughts, maybe I am really good at something, on repeat in my head. Izuku's POV Day 6 of the holidays. It's Thursday and it's coming to the end of the first week of holidays. So far the most productive things I've done is map out the school and the vent system, learn some new fighting techniques and human pressure points, and how to fake your own death. Why I would need the last one is a question for both you and me. But it turns out if you hold your breathing and brace your stomach and breath in specific counts, you can lower your pulse rate. I've been doing some breathing exercises that's got me better at controlling my pulse rate. My resting heart rate is still much harder to control though. Anyway, today I spent most of the day with Luna in the clearing I found in the forest. Then I played around in one of the training cities and practiced running on rooftops and signal tower wires without falling. Then I went back to dorms at about 5. I didn't get any sleep last night either, and combined that with no sleep on the day I took placement tests, I've been awake for more than 2 whole days. I've been tired all day and it's only been getting worse and making my body feel more sluggish and slow. It doesn't help that today is a rather cloudy day and the whole day it's been dark outside. There wasn't even any sun to wake up my brain. I figured I might as well take a nap. Reaching the bed in my dorm room, I turned around and fell into it. Luna, who was still in my jumper pocket, squirmed, but gave out a short meow before falling back asleep. "Sorry, Lou," I said as I dragged myself more into the bed. Curling up into myself, I pulled my blanket lightly over me, stopping it just before my chin. "Good night," I murmured as I let myself drift off. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 sighed as I finished another sheet of paperwork. "Someone, please, for the sake of my sanity, please, explain why every single fight and victim I get into or meet needs to be recorded into a file. The files are just thrown to the side. There's so many files you can't even look through them at this point. What's the point of filling them?" I let out another sigh and looked over to the couch in the staff room. Eri didn't have any playgroup today and had spent the entire day just sitting in the staff room or in her playroom. Maybe Problem Child won't mind looking after her for a while, and it's not good for young kids to be alone for so long anyway. He could entertain her. Eri likes him and he's on holiday anyway. Okay, let's do that. "Eri, how would you like to see if the Problem Child is free? I mean Midoriya," I called over to her. Zashi started yelling, "I'll walk a little listener over." "Mr. Deku," she said, her face lighting up considerably. I just nodded. "Come on, little listener, I'll walk you over," Zashi said. "If I hear your voice screaming from the dorms, I swear I will duct tape your mouth together, so please for the love of God don't yell," I say, glaring at him with my quirk activated. Sure, he said while jumping up from his desk and hopping over to the door. The idiot's probably happy to escape paperwork. I just turned back to my paperwork. Eri, POV me and Mr. Mike walked over to Mr. Deku's school dorm. Because it's the holidays, there were no classes and I couldn't see any of the nice students that go to school. "What? It's the holidays, what's Mr. Deku doing at school?" "Mr. Mike, if it's the holidays, what is Mr. Deku doing at school? Would he be with his family at his house?" I ask. Mr. Mike turns over to look at me and says, "Little listener is stuck at school for the holidays because his parents are busy at work. Show's stuck with him all holidays, but I can tell he's happy. I wonder why he hasn't talked or even complained about him yet." "Mr. Deku is going to be at school the whole holidays?" I ask. "Yes, so you can visit him whenever you want, isn't that great? And he'd probably enjoy the extra company as well, after all he's going to be here by himself the whole time." We reach the dorms. He doesn't seem to be here, maybe in his dorm. Let's go have a look. Mr. Mike says happily as I nod. We walk to the elevator and Mr. Mike pressed the button with a 2. We walk over to the door with Mr. Deku's name on it and Mr. Mike holds his hand up to knock, then stops. He looks at me and winks and says, with a hunger over his mouth. I make myself smaller trying to be as quiet as I can. "Is Mr. Deku sleeping?" Mr. Mike tries the handle and slightly opens the door. I can see Mr. Deku sleeping on the bed. Mr. Mike seems very happy for some reason and turns to me. "Little listener seems to be sleeping. Why don't you sew dome coloring in his room and wait for him to wake up?" He whispered, smiling. "Okay." I whisper happily, "After Mr. Deku wakes up we can play together." I thought happily as I went inside and sat at the desk quietly so as to not wake Mr. Deku up. I've been coloring for just 2 minutes, but I started feeling tired, and I looked outside. It was still very dark. I yawned. Quietly pulling myself up to Mr. Deku's bed, I pull the cover on myself, laying down on one side of the bed without going too close to Mr. Deku so as to not wake him up. Just a short nap, then I'll color later, I thought sleepily. Izuku's POV. I woke up from my nap groggy from sleep but peaceful. For about 2 seconds. But just then I noticed that I was not alone in my bed. I jumped out of the bed even faster than my heart had jumped out my mouth. It took about 5 seconds to shake myself out of my sleepy mind, and that's only after sticking to the top corner of my room like Spider-Man using Black Whip to hold me up. After calming down I noticed that the other person was Eri. The person in question was slowly getting up and sleepily rubbing her eye. "Mr. Deku." She looked up with a questioning look as I jumped down from the ceiling. "Sorry for waking you up, Eri," I said, immediately putting on an apologetic smile. As calm as I seemed, my head was a mess. I had gotten better at awareness, so How had Eri gotten in without me waking up? If she had made any noise I would have woken up immediately. It's okay, sorry for coming into your room without asking. You were sleeping when Mr. Mike dropped me off and I didn't want to wake you up. And sorry for sleeping on your bed, I felt sleepy. She slowly shrunk into herself as she rambled on. Eri, it's okay, you're welcome in my room at any time, anyone is. That's why the door's always unlocked. My classmates visit my room whenever they wake up in the middle of the night. That's probably not good for their mental or physical health though, I murmured the last part. And she came in quietly. Did she hide her presence? There's no other way I would have not woken up. That's amazing. It took me forever to learn to fully hide my presence like that. Then again, she probably learned that to hide from overall. I felt a frown creeping onto my face and quickly exchanged it with a smile. Looking over to the clock, I saw it was 8. 3 hours of sleep, not bad. Eri was still sitting on my bed staring at my intently. I smiled wider, an idea popping into my head. Hey Eri, I know it's a bit early, but why don't we make some dinner? It's probably be super time by the time we finish cooking anyway. What do you say if helping me? A smile lit her face. Okay, she said as she scrambled off the bed and followed me to the kitchen. What do you want to eat? I asked. I'm not sure, she trailed off. Okay then, what did you want to try out of the meals you saw at the festival? Did anything catch your eyes? There was something that looked colorful. It was called mini pizza. I think anything else is fine too. Okay, mini pizzas it is. I replied happily as I got out the ingredients that would be needed to make the pizza. I was really glad I made pizzas with my mum on the weekends sometimes. I'm no chef like Kacchan, but unlike what Kacchan thinks, I do know how to make some simple recipes. We ended up making 3 mini pizzas and Eri helped me with mixing together the pizza dough and placing the toppings. She even happily chose her own toppings for her pizza of red capsicum, pepperoni and ham. Honestly, I think I have another person on the favorite color red team. I put on some chicken and a variety of veg and some barbecue sauce, and the third pizza had some simple toppings of just ham and some veg. In the 30 minutes time we let the pizza to cook, Eri and I found ourselves entertaining ourselves with a blank book drawing whatever came to mind. Eri's page was filled with flowers and random animals. Mine was filled with a flower field. Talking about animals, I'm quite sure Luna was still in my bed as she seemed to have teleported out of my pocket at some point while we were cooking. At that thought, I got up telling Eri I'll be right back and took all the meat scraps and some cheese left out on the kitchen counter and headed to my room. Clicking my tongue, I called Luna over and placed the food into one bowl in the corner of my room while filling the other with some more water. Heading back downstairs, I saw Eri pointing at her and my drawings and rambling excitedly while Mr. 𝗧𝗏 stood over her and listened half interested. Mr. 𝗧𝗏 nodded at me. Hello, problem child. Also, if you're going to use the oven, make sure to keep an eye on it. I do not want to deal with a burnt-down kitchen anytime soon. Yes, Mr. 𝗧𝗏. Also talking about cooking, me and Eri made mini pizzas, but we made an extra one. Would you like it? I replied happily. Mr. 𝗧𝗏 raised an eyebrow at me but still gave me a nod. Smiling, I took out the pizzas that were cooling down and plated them. Me and Eri ate at the table while Mr. 𝗧𝗏 took his to his dorm room. At about 9:30 I dropped Eri back at her room in the school building that was next to Recovery Girl's office and went back to my room. Me and Luna spent a couple of hours on a jog outside because we couldn't sleep from our long nap. Then we ate some ice cream. Then I tried doing some online college-level worksheets that I signed myself up into. They were surprisingly straightforward, and went to sleep at about 2 in the morning. 𝗧𝗏 POV. It was a fairly peaceful morning. I had gotten enough coffee and didn't feel like murdering anyone. Problem child hadn't created any, well, problems, and I had gotten more sleep than usual lately as I didn't need to come back from patrol and teach the bunch of animals that go by the name Class A1. Shota. As I said, it was a fairly peaceful morning. Sighing, I rotated my chair to face the loud blonde. What is it, Mike? I've been having a peaceful morning and I would rather you not ruin it. Shota. You wound me, he said while overly dramatic, clutching his hand over his chest. He really hoped that Mike was not trying to clutch his heart because last he checked the heart was on the left side, not the right. And he didn't really know about anyone else, but he'd rather not put his first aid trust into someone who didn't know where a heart was located. And I just wanted to ask if you're looking after your favorite student properly dash. He rambled on loudly to my displeasure. He's not my favorite student, I don't have favorites. I grumbled. Yesterday when I dropped Eri off he was sleeping. If he was really taking a nap at 5, his weird nap schedule is going to rival yours, who even takes naps just before bed. He finished my comment going ignored. Ignoring him I turned back to my computer. Didn't put problem child to be one to take naps. He's always make the most out of your day person. I figured he would only sleep at night. If he's really taking naps and getting 8 hours of sleep I'd say I'm starting to get jealous of high schoolers' free time and dash. Actually that's a good question. Are you looking after him? You haven't even complained about him yet. Are you actually looking after him? Midnight said, interrupting my thoughts and joining the conversation. Yes, I am keeping an eye on him, and I haven't complained because the worst he's done is skip a meal, unlike you two children who cause a lot more trouble. I grumbled, still reluctantly joining the conversation. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, you can't just make sure he's eating, that's the bare minimum to keep him alive. There's a large difference between keeping an eye on and looking after. She scolded, ignoring my last comment, while Hisashi nodded enthusiastically. He's 16 not 6, he can take care of himself, all I'm doing is making sure he doesn't manage to kill himself, I replied. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, I know you had very little maintenance when you were younger but most people unlike you need company and human conversation to, keep them sane, he said while laughing. Wait, you said he had a nap at 5. I'm quite sure I saw him walking around at 4 in the morning while I left for one of my strange patrol shifts. Midnight said, maybe he goes to sleep early and wakes up early, doing something different for the holidays. Teenagers do that, right? That got my attention. He was walking around at 4 in the morning. Did you ask him why? I said, frowning and spinning around to face the pair of idiots. Okay, I didn't ask. He was inside the campus area and I was getting late for my shift anyway, she said. Talking about Midoriya, did you know he's quite good at English? One of the best in his class I'd say, only gets some of the hard words or questions wrong. Mike said, positively smirking at me knowingly. I grumbled in annoyance. English was not my favorite subject during school. Why Mike likes to pick at the subject every now and again I'll never know. He already knew a lot of English at the start of the year. I greeted him with a hello. How are you? He greeted me back and introduced myself to me and asked like 10 questions about my quirk in like 20 seconds. And all in English. He said, hand now on his chin and 𝗬𝗵𝗲 into space. Now you mentioned it, I'm quite sure I got a self-introduction about myself in his first class with me as well. He really knows a lot about heroes, doesn't he? Wonder how many he knows. Midnight said while thinking out loud. Are you talking about Midoriya? He also fired about 20 questions about my quirk the first time we met. I was scared he was going to pass out or something by how fast he talked, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said as he passed by. Oh yeah, that's true. Problem child does seem to know a lot about heroes in general. Does he just remember all that information? He even introduced me to the class and dash. My thoughts broke off as I began choking on the gulp of coffee I just drank. How 𝗧𝗵𝗲? Be careful, Mike said, patting my back as I tried to stop coughing. I'm an underground hero, I exclaimed, almost gasping out the words. Mike and Midnight glanced at each other before staring at me. That's great, you made a discovery about yourself. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, did you lose your memory or something recently? Midnight said hesitantly while trying to contain her laughter while Mike openly laughed. No, I scowled. I'm an underground hero, so no one knows about me. If they do, they know I'm a UA heroics teacher, but they shouldn't know me, my hero name or my quirk, I said. Yes, 𝗧𝗵𝗲, we know. That's half the reason you went underground. Don't and can't deal with the valuers even if you wanted to, Mike said, finally composing himself. I know, no one knows me, not even most of the heroes I meet know me, I told them. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, what's your point? Midnight said in a half-exasperated voice. Good, be annoyed for once in your life. I would think if it wasn't for the bigger question in my head right now. My point is problem. Child was the one who introduced me to the class. He told them my hero name and even gave them a brief summary about my quirk, I said. Oh. How did he know who you were? Mike said the question in everyone's heads. Maybe you ran into him during one of your patrols. Midnight questioned. I racked my brain. No. No, I would remember if I met anyone from my class before I taught them. It's a bit hard to forget, I grumbled, and I can't really just go and ask him how he knew about me, can I? Relax, Sho, maybe one of the people you saved knew him and told him. After all, people who get saved by a hero make it their job to tell everyone they know about it. Mike said, leaning back into his chair. It's probably something like that, Midnight said. Anyway, you need to make sure to actually look after him, Shota. You have an actual child under your care for the holidays. You can't just ignore his well-being like you do while teaching. She said, snapping out of it, and scolded me again. Fine, I'll do it, I said, rolling my eyes and turning back to the computer. God, I hated it when my self-claimed friends had a point. Izuku's POV, I sneezed, finally falling down and rolling myself into a sitting position. Was I getting sick? I had come to the training room at about 8 and did some simple exercises. I was just doing a timed handstand when I had to sneeze, not once, not twice, but 5 times. Finally giving up, I walked outside the gym and started heading over to the school library. It was just 11 now. It was such a short workout. Luna had gone off playing into the forest. If she got tired, she would teleport to my dorm room, so I didn't need to worry about her. Airy POV, I walked out my room and quietly walked over to the staff room and peeped in. Mr. 𝗧𝗏 looked over at me and called me over with a nod. Do you need anything, Airy? He asked. No, I mean yes, can I go play with Mr. Deku like I did yesterday, please? I asked, fumbling my fingers and looking up at him. Sure, I'm not sure where he would be, but it's 2. We can go check his dorm and see if he's eating lunch or something first. Come on, he said, holding out a hand. No, it's okay. I remember where the dorm is. I'll go check by myself, I said hurriedly. Mr. 𝗧𝗏 raised an eyebrow, almost asking me if I'm sure. I just stared back confidentially. He blinked and nodded. Okay, if he's not there, just come back here and we can go look for him somewhere else, okay? I nodded hurriedly and thanked him and ran off to find Mr. Deku. Izuku's POV, I was reading outside the library. I'm propped up against the wall of the library, while holding a book open with a hand while eating a wrap I made myself when I headed over to the dorms to give Luna food and play with her. I was reading peacefully while finishing of my wrap and throwing the wrapper into the bin a couple of meters away from me. That's when I heard the quiet footsteps headed towards me. Looking up, I saw Airy turn the corner and instantly brightened up when seeing me. She ran over excitedly and said excitedly, Mr. Deku, I was looking for you. I looked in the dorm room first, but I couldn't find you. I was going to ask Mr. 𝗧𝗏 to look for you with me, but I found you now. Okay, I said laughing. Why were you looking for me? I asked. I wanted to play like we did yesterday, she said happily, only if you're free. She gushed out at the end. I laughed. Airy, I'm free all day. Really, playing with you is giving me something to do. Also, if you're looking for me, just check either the dorms, the training rooms, or the library. I'll most likely be there. If not, just leave me a note in the dorm or something. I'll come to you when I see it, okay? I said, smiling as I received a happy okay from her. Okay, what would you like to do then? I asked while getting up and holding out my hand. Izuku's POV, I lay the sleeping Airy down carefully in the bed in her playroom. We spent about a day and a half together and I made some discoveries. About a day and a half ago. Okay, what would you like to do then? I asked while getting up and holding out my hand. We spent a large amount of the rest of the day together in the library. I read some books about pressure points and weak and strong spots in the human body. Airy seemed content with taking out some of the few picture books the library had for who knows what reason, and read them, though occasionally asking me what a word meant or reading me interesting parts of the book. So far from the parts I've heard, I've made out that the story's about a prince getting kidnapped by a snowman, and then going on an adventure with a donkey and getting saved by something that sounded and looked suspiciously like a rip-off version of Anna from Frozen. I decided to stop trying to understand it after the adventure with the talking donkey part. No thanks, trying to understand the function of the throat and voice box and the too many versions of thyroid diseases it can get is much easier to understand. Anyway, that was eventful in its own way. I ended up taking a break for the rest of the day and playing in the sun with Airy as it was a warm day. We ended with me making fried rice for dinner again, making extra and giving some to Mr. Izawa. We then settled down on the couch and watched movies while we ate our dinner and destroyed the pack of lollies we opened. Eri dozed off after the middle of the third movie, leaving me to lay her down on the couch carefully and bring my computer downstairs after saying hi to Luna, who seemed to have taken the rest of the day as her hibernation day. I did not end up sleeping that night. I do not have insomnia, really. Anyway, I did however end up finishing the coding program I signed up for when I signed up for the worksheets. All whole, also using 𝗵𝗃𝗃 to lift as many small objects as possible to increase my precision and multitasking skills. Yay me. I didn't even need to be worried about being caught by Mr. Izuku going to his patrol, as he seems to like entering and exiting the dorms through his window when going to his patrols. That, and he doesn't seem to keep a close eye on me. Hopefully that means he trusts me to some extent. I then got up at around 7-ish to make Eri some mini pancakes when she woke up, and made Luna some mini Mimi cat-friendly pancakes for her breakfast. What can I do? Can't go out to buy her cat food, so improvise. Plus I think she like having a variety better anyway. Luna spent the rest of the morning hiding in my hoodie while me and Eri ate and started some new series about dragons. How I'm still hiding Luna from everyone. Great question. Guess it helps that she seems to understand the point that she needs to hide from anyone that is not me and teleports away whenever someone comes. Not that that's happened much yet. Anyway, after I think I started getting fidgety and started to mumble about training by accident, as Eri immediately asked to watch me train. I told her it would be boring, but she seemed stubborn and insisted that she wanted to see me train and could just color if she gets bored. So yes, that how me in my hero suite, Eri and a hiding Luna ended up in the training room. Luna teleported away to another spot in the room to be able to either keep an eye on me or jump and play around. I recently got out my suits case and brought out the little cylinder-shaped object while Eri set up her coloring book and pencils. Pressing the ends of the cylinder, I let it extend into a lengthy and solid bow stick that I had been practicing with for the last week. May had been working on making some weapons that could be useful into a space-conserving shape so they can be carried around easily. The bow stick was her latest success, which she lent to me, something about no one needed it and me being able to use it well anyway. I have no idea whatsoever on the fact she thought I could use a bow stick, because I've never held one before. But she went through the trouble of making it, and it could very well be used as a great weapon, and I had been planning to try to learn to use some anyway. So far I've got the theory of how to use them down in my notebooks for about 15 different types of weapons. The weapon would be better practice if I had some targets. However, learning to swing it better and put the movement into practice was still a good warm-up. It was about 15 minutes into my warm-up that I finally decided to look over at Eri, who had been watching me in a daze for the last 10 minutes. Hi Eri, you okay? You've been looking at me without moving for a long time. I called over. Eri's face flushed. Sorry, the way you were moving and using the stick looked so cool. It was my turn to lightly blush at the compliment. Thanks, Eri. Do you want to try holding it? I said as I reduced the height of the bow stick and called her over. She rushed over excitedly and watched and repeated where I told her to place her arms and what position to stand it. I looked away for a moment as I saw Luna running on a thin beam on one of the practice buildings. Then I gasped and fell. Face headed to plant flat on the ground too. However, before fully falling, I managed to tuck myself in and roll to the side to slow my fall. When I sat up, I was met with a flurry of light blue hair and worried red eyes humming to me and apologizing again and again. Mr. Deku, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I was just trying to swing the stick like you did and I didn't see you and... I'm sorry. Eri said, her eyes tearing up. I sat there shocked for a moment before breaking out in laughter of pure amazement. Really, Eri? That was amazing. I said, laughing. Eri sat there looking a bit lost as I stopped laughing and smiled at her. But I hurt you, she said quietly. Yes, that's fine. I get hurt all the time in training, plus what you did didn't even hurt as I broke the fall. But what you did was amazing. What if someone or you were in trouble? Tripping the attacker over and running is a great tactic while fighting. You used that weapon better than I did, I said, my eyes still shining as I thought about the many new low moves I could use with the weapon. Really? Are you okay though, Mr. Deku? Eri asked with her eyes shining still with doubt but also a spark of curiosity. I smile. Of course I'm fine. And really, would you like to try using the weapon more? I might even get some better ideas after watching you use it. I said happily. Eri seemed nervous at first, but as we practiced more she started having more fun and she was a really quick learner. We spent 3 hours just practicing with the bow stick and making a game of her chasing me and trying to land a hit on me while I ran. And boy am I not underestimating the stamina of a child ever again. Then we dropped the stick and started playing an intense game of hide and seek chasey, which was very tiring as even if Eri wasn't as fast as me, she could hide her presence as well. Playing in such a big area made it fun though. What wasn't fun was running around the area 3 times before I found her. We then ate lunch made by Lunch Rush at about 2:30 as Eri ate some snacks while in the training room. I then worked on some worksheets in the dorm while Eri worked on her homework sheets while we both ate cut-up apples in the dorms. Eri fell asleep from all the energy she excreted at about 5. She was sleeping on the couch for about 3 hours while I did more worksheets and took a shower while leaving her a note. When I found her still sound asleep, I took her to her room. Back to original time. I head out of the school building, Luna teleporting to my shoulder as I entered the forest. The sun was setting as we finally reached our mutually accepted secret spot of the large clearing in the forest. I really need to find a better name for the spot, don't I? We spent the rest of the time playing and training. At about who knows, as I pulled on my thick jumper as I sat down under the large tree, leaning on the side of the stem where Luna was sleeping above. I didn't know when it was, but I felt myself falling asleep and the world going dark. Izuku's POV, I sighed as I head into my room through the window and locked it. I let my mind wander as I got ready for bed. Mike and Midnight had told me about keeping a proper eye and looking after Problem Child, and though I said yes, I hadn't done anything. In my defense, he was with Eri and seemed to be capable of cooking, judging from the last 2 dinners I've tried, so nothing to worry about. But even as I finished getting ready and reached out to my sleeping bag to go to sleep, my mind would not quit bothering me, so with another sigh I walked out of my room and headed over to Problem Child's dorm room. Of course I decide to put myself through more pain after I'm tired from patrol. What am I thinking? It's 2:30 in the morning, of course he's asleep. Why do I even bother? But I also don't think I can sleep before making sure, I thought as I finally reached Problem Child's room. Just a quick check and I can get this over with and go to sleep, I thought. I was surprised as the door opened without the shared key I had brought that opens all my students' dorm doors. I quickly figured out why, as I couldn't find anyone in the bed, thinking he might be in the bathroom. I knocked but heard no reply. There wasn't any light on either. Opening the door just in case, I sighed again and headed downstairs to see if he had fallen asleep on one of the couches. Surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, seeing this is Problem Child I suppose, he did not have that name for no reason. He was not in the dorm's shared area sleeping on a couch. I felt a light amount of worry creep in and felt more awake. I immediately started checking other rooms like the kitchen, the shared rooms, and his dorm again, and the closest in his room. Just in case. Who knows what teenagers think about these days. I know I've thought about hiding in a closet when I was a teen. Actually, I'm quite sure I still do that sometimes, hypothetically just thinking about it, of course. Anyway, the problem at hand, I can't find Problem Child and I've been looking for 10 minutes. I can't even sense his presence. I spent another 10 minutes going through all my other students' rooms. Then checking the places I've already checked. Then checking in the girls' shared bathroom just in case. It's not like anyone else other than Problem Child could have been in there anyway. After a solid 30 minutes of searching the dorms, I remember that Midnight said she saw him taking a walk at 4 in the morning. Panic settling slightly, I make my way outside and start searching around the unnecessary large school campus. 30 minutes later, okay, I give up, I thought as I made a beeline over to Mick's homeroom class dorms and knocked on his door hurriedly. It took about 30 seconds, but with my hurriedly and loud knocking I finally heard a grumpy, "I'm coming. Geez, don't break down the door." I saw the door open and a tried mic appear from behind it. "What do you want and why are you trying to break down, 𝗧𝗵𝗲?" Mike said, eyes widening and finally waking up. Whatever he had been expecting, it wasn't this. "What's on? Are you okay?" Mike said in a worried voice. He just mentally slapped himself. He must look terrible. He had started the search at a civil rate, but as time went he had gotten more frantic and was standing there, eyes wind and out of breath. In my defense, the last time a student went missing they were taken by the LOV. I'd rather Midoriya not be taken. I said, unable to communicate the problem properly. Midoriya's missing, I finally say in a defeated voice. What do you mean he's missing? Mike said, eyes wide now slightly shaking my shoulder. I mean I can't find him. I've searched the entire dorms top to bottom and Design Midnight said he goes on walks as much of the campus grounds as I can. I haven't found him, I say. Okay, it's fine, I'll just tell his name. Actually wait, who else knows? He asked. Just you for now. I didn't think much of it at first, but seeing I've been searching for at least an hour and I can't find him, well, I draw out my reply. Okay, let's find him quickly, Mike said, trying to rush off. Trying as I quickly held his shoulder and stopped him. No, first wake up everyone else. It probably isn't good to panic them, but in the event he is missing anyway, just anyone who's here except Nizu will use him as backup. Best case 𝗵𝘃𝗲 is just taking a walk and I missed him when searching, I said. As soon as I saw Mike give a quick nod, I jumped out the window and went to wake up all the teachers on the left side of the campus while Mike took the right. As much of an emergency as this is, I'd rather not admit to Nizu needing to help me take care of one student, and seeing I haven't gotten any notification Midoriya probably is still in the campus. Why didn't I think to give him a proper curfew? Already it's 5 in the morning and all the UA teachers had been searching for more than an hour. They'd resorted to not use my quirk as to not alert everything within the 50 kilometers radius of their search. They did however use Hound Dog's quirk to try locate Midoriya. That's how they were led to the forest before Hound Dog couldn't find a scent distinctive enough to follow. They had then gone out to spread out and search the forest. All of them had however underestimated the size of the forest as they had been searching for at least 20 minutes. All this confusion and panic was taking place, while just now a certain, tired green curly-haired child was waking up. Izuku's POV, I woke up with a headache, feeling tired and my legs slightly colder than I would like them. The chirping of the birds, the light breeze and the feeling of grass was however rather comforting. For a moment, that is before I forced my eyes to fly open. Breeze. I was slightly panicking. Who am I kidding? I'm fully panicking. I slept outside. Was I allowed to do that? Mr. Aizawa is going to be so mad at me. What time is it? I thought as I scrambled to pick up my phone while Luna stared at me in confusion. I relaxed slightly when I saw it was just past 5. Okay, it's okay. Mr. Aizawa doesn't check on me anyways. I just have to get back before 8 and I'll be fine, I thought as I made my way out of the forest in a hurry. My journey back was however not uninterrupted as I nearly bumped into Miss Midnight hurrying into the forest. This in itself would not have been concerning as she could have just been taking a scroll or something. I just avoided her, no need for me to disturb her. Even my near encounter of Mr. Ectoplasm could have been passed as a coincidence, that is if I didn't pass another 5 of them in the next 2 minutes. By that time I was hanging on a middle branch in one of the trees with a thick amount of leaves. It was also then I had given up. I was quite sure they were searching for me, seeing the chances they had of searching for a villain was low. There would have been an alarm. Letting out a small sigh and accepting my fate, I jumped down. This was my plan. I was going to let myself be caught by the next teacher I see, and be that I mean seen, and by any luck I can wish them a good morning and make my way back to the dorms without Mr. Aizawa finding out I wasn't there all night. It was a great plan. It really was, at least I thought it was. That is until I came face to face with a slightly puffed out but very angry looking Mr. Aizawa. Aizawa's POV, I almost couldn't believe it when I found 𝗵𝘃𝗲 standing in the forest. His face pale from the cold but otherwise giving me a nervous smile that would have been considered normal if it wasn't for the circumstances we were in when he saw me. The first thing I did was activate my quirk and glare at him. Immediately his face paled 10 times more and his body visibly shrunk as he tried and failed to hide from my glare. He obviously knew what he had done wrong. Good, be scared, I thought as I wrapped my capture weapon around him and brought out my phone to send a message that I had found 𝗵𝘃𝗲 in the teacher's group chat. The one without Nizu in it, and did we have a lot of them with him in it? He always managed to hack himself into the group chats whenever he wanted to. Without another word, I started heading back to the forest's entrance as I dragged 𝗵𝘃𝗲 along without warning. Surprisingly, he came without any resistance. This allowed the tape to be solidly wrapped around him but also wasn't crushing him tightly as it would when resisted. As we reached the entrance I said, 𝗵𝘃𝗲, Me and you are having a long talk about this when we get back, to which he just nodded silently. It wasn't silent for long, however, as I heard Mike scream my and 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 name. That was quickly followed by a loud midnight who came and have 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀 a large hug and fussed over him like an ant. 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀 just made it his job to apologize to everyone who came about. I was slowly starting to regret waking up all the staff as they showed up, and the whole thing turned into some gathering. I regretted it more when I got a message on my phone from 𝗍𝗬 to come to his office and bring the 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀 along. Of course 𝗍𝗬 knew, of course. I thought as I told the others, and pulled a fully shaken up 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 away from the worrying and pitying glances sent to us by my co-workers. After 15 minutes of a slow walk we finally reached 𝗍𝗬's office. Seriously, why was the school so big? It was just before entering I turned to properly look at 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀. I was quickly taken aback. 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 looked pale, small, sacred and, well, to sum it up, ready to bolt or pass out as soon as we entered. Where was that expression coming from? It's not like he's going to be hurt. I sighed. 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, it's okay, we're probably just going to have a small chat and tell you to not pull that stunt again. 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 looked at my eyes wide as if not believing what he just heard, then nodded and muttered a small, "I'm sorry," before looking at the door again, this time prepared to enter. Sighing internally again as I put my hand to the door and it opened automatically, I pulled 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 into the room as he still looked half ready to bolt. "Good morning, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 Midoriya, thanks for joining me," I heard as I entered the office. Rolling my eyes at that statement, I sat down at one of the seats in front of his desk while unwrapping 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and allowing him to do the same. It's not like we had a choice, I thought as I stared at 𝗍𝗬 waiting for him to talk. Now you probably know why you're here, but just in case, it's because of the little goose chase you had this morning, 𝗍𝗬 continued. Principal 𝗍𝗬, I'm sorry, it wasn't that Mr. 𝗧𝗲𝗀 wasn't watching me. I was just out at the forest training late and I sat down and accidentally fell asleep and 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 rambled. It's quite alright, Midoriya, I have managed to fill in most of the gaps out myself. I would just like to tell you that it's better to sleep indoors and to try not to spend the entire night outside. I've seen people, especially kids, get sick quite easily. If you're going to sleep somewhere else than in the dorms, then you can let 𝗧𝗲𝗀 know and do so as long as it's somewhere indoors. Understood? 𝗍𝗬 said, waiting for a reply. Yes, of course, he reserved with a shake of the head so vigorous I was wondering how it didn't hurt. I would however like to know how none of my patrolling cameras picked up on you going to the forest, 𝗍𝗬 said while smiling. I felt a shiver go up my spine. He was up to something. Despite the knowledge, I looked over at 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and raised an eyebrow. What's this he's talking about? I think he wouldn't mention this without a purpose. I don't know, the 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 replied. It was silent as 𝗍𝗬 continued looking at him, making him shrink and start slightly shaking. Despite the circumstances and anger I felt at him before, I felt slightly bad for 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. Well, that's all right then, I guess I'll have to fix the security a bit. I've also called you here 𝗧𝗲𝗀, he said, making me look up at the mention of my name. To tell you you are not allowed to give Midoriya here a curfew. I just raised an eyebrow, but looking at 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 I saw that this statement completely surprised him and he was staring at 𝗍𝗬 with his mouth slightly open. If you're wondering why, to put it simply, it's the holidays. We have already restricted going outside the campus, which I think is already quite constricting for a child, and I myself know how much I enjoy going out for a stroll at night. I do however ask that you keep a better eye on Midoriya, and that Midoriya informs you when doing anything like this again. Understood? He asks again, to which he receives a grunt from me and a soundless nod from 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. Midoriya, can you please wait outside? I need to have a small talk with 𝗧𝗲𝗀 and you can head back together, 𝗍𝗬 said. 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 nodded again and walked out of the office in almost a daze. I got up and waited for 𝗍𝗬 to speak, already knowing the word was going to be a quick one. 𝗧𝗲𝗀, next time I ask that you inform me of a child going missing at an earlier time, he said, to which I just nodded and made my way out of the office and away from his smile that was turning slightly sadistic at that point. 𝗍𝗬 probably knew within the first hour what we were doing. He was probably watching us run around while knowing 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 was safe. I grumbled in my mind as we made our way back to the dorms. About 5 minutes after we arrived, and after 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗺𝗺 was sure I was finished lecturing him, he promptly prepared and took his breakfast to his dorm while I prepared my coffee. Izuku's POV, what did I do? What did I do? I thought as I phased around my room and gave my breakfast to Luna, seeing my stomach was dead and definitely not in the mood to stomach food. I could also feel the headache becoming bigger. I let out a big sigh and let myself fall into my bed and wrap myself around my cover. I didn't even mean to stay out, and I got caught by Principal Nizu about not being seen in the cameras. However, of course, my natural instinct had to be to avoid them. He's so going to be on to me now, I whine in my head. I allowed my shoulders to slump into myself as I just accepted my fate for the second time that morning. Luna, who had been pawing at my chest since I had gotten back, got off me, seeming to give up on my overdramatic behavior, and walked away in favor of eating the simple bowl of crackers, tuna and veg I had prepared. I could only agree at her behavior. I'll be fine, just go back to staying out of everyone's way and keep my head low. I just made every single teacher search for me for who knows how long. This is never happening again, I thought as I dragged myself to my desk to do some work and get my mind off of self-criticism. Izuku's POV, I got up, my whole body feeling tired and dizzy from getting up too quickly, swayed on the spot slightly. I was working out in the training room before I got too tired and laid down for a while. Because guess who hasn't slept since the sending all my teachers on a goose chase and getting into trouble incident? That's right, Of course I apologized to all my teachers, of course, but it still doesn't change what I did. Apparently they had been searching for hours and I didn't even want to know how long Mr. Aizawa was searching for, seeing he would have searched by himself for at least an hour before giving up and asking for help. I just couldn't sleep. I didn't feel like it, so yes, I have been awake for 3 whole days and 4th day running. Also, guess whose body was breaking down? Yup, mine, but of course I'll live, so it's fine. I sat up and opened my phone to see the time, 9:45. I sighed and got up. This is not good. How many times have I sighed in the past 4 days? I promised myself that I would not sigh every time something overwhelming happened. 1, because those things happen way too often, and 2, because Mr. Aizawa does that enough for both of us. I got up and headed out of the training room. Luna was riding in my hair, half hiding and half trying to rip it out with her claws, but I guess it didn't really matter. Especially seeing how his hair was rather soft and not full of knots like people frequently thought when they see his curly hair. His hair was rather flexible and accepting of whatever's done to it. When brushed out it actually sits straight. Big surprise, I know. What I'm trying to get at is that it's not always a full town of curly abominated hair and can and does actually listen to a comb most of the time. The problem, however, was that it was quite easy to get my hair messy. Even after fully brushing it out, the moment it's moved around a bit, it's back to its fluffy, curly, uncontrollable self. So yes, that's how it resulted in pretty much everyone except probably my mum from seeing his hair actually be tame for once. Anyway, how did I get into a ramble of talking about hair? No idea. But my body, however, seems to have run on autopilot and made myself change into swimming trunks and pack a set of spare clothes in a bag. And best it for that, learning to run in autopilot is one of the most useful skill I have, especially when taking notes in class while thinking about the way that Miss Midnight's quirk is actually a light version of a poisonous gas that shuts down the brain temporarily as the victim, though asleep, cannot dream, or the 54 and ongoing ways each person in his class can improve their hero costume. Anyway, back to getting ready for swimming. Yay, my brain's back from its little field trip. It seems that time likes to move too slowly, not only when we're doing something boring but also when doing nothing. Because it seems like forever has passed and he still has 8 minutes until Kaminari and Mineta come to pick me up to go to the school pool at their agreed time at 10. Sitting down on the couch, I ignore the snail-paced clock in favor of doing 2.5 worksheets on the computer. This proves to be a good way to pass time, as there was a sudden burst of noise when the door opened and in came the 2 mentioned members in their casual swimming clothes. There was a quick pass of greetings as they finally started heading to the swimming pool after informing Mr. Aizawa that they're going to the pool. Letting both the purplet and the yellowette lead, I let myself slip back into my thoughts. I was excited and happy to be invited, enough so to try to invite other people from the class to join. I was sure that the 2 wouldn't mind some extra company while doing some training. So the first person to call was presumably Uraraka, as I was close to her. That is when I found out the girls already had their own pool trip planned for that day. I look up and shoot a couple of smiles at the teachers in the staff room as we arrive. I let the two do the talking and started staring off into nowhere. Of course I had trust in my friends and peers, but these two, especially Mineta, have a small tendency to be overly obsessed with girls, except you change the small to massive, and tendency to unstoppable habit, and dash, well, you get the point. Anyway, I just wanted to be able to distract them a bit. But then again, trust, I'm sure they wouldn't plan an entire day to just go watch the girls do some swimming. So of course I didn't actually call anyone else over. Until the last minute, that is. I think as we walk through the door leading up to the swimming pool, all the boys in our class on one side are greeting us and the other is playing in the water with Eri. Did I mention that I asked 𝗬𝗧𝗏 to see if Eri wanted to join them in swimming? When then, yes, I did do that too. I look at them having fun while I greet everyone and send a questioning glance at the stunned faces of the two who led me to the pool. I did in fact decide to call people over. Just in case. And anyway, the more the merrier, right? I asked Kirishima first and asked if he could also invite 𝗬𝗏 and Kacchan, then called Lita, who, like I had half predicted to do, decided to take the task out of my hands and made it job to inform the class. 2 hours later, the training/workout session went great. All in all, I didn't have much to worry about. The girls had a great time and we were able to work well and even do some races that we could finish because of Mr. Izawa. The class really protested to that interface, but not me, because in all honesty, no thanks, I would like to not be traumatized, and I wasn't about to lower that chance by adding this onto the list with my last incident. Shouting a bye to the last people leaving and started heading back to the dorms. After all, I had a small meeting to attend. Dropping myself onto the chair at my desk, I opened my computer and placed out my phone while patting Luna, who jumped on my lap. About 5 minutes later, my phone rang. I opened it excitedly. Hi, Hiro. You asked me to teach you to hack, so I'm going to teach you to hack, and I'm not going to go easy on you, you hear? Says an enthusiastic voice from the phone, repeating the same speech for about the 10th time. Is that 𝗬𝗏𝗏, the partner of General Criminal who he took down? Yes, it is. Now what would I have doing talking to a ex-villain/lawbreaker? Well, I was getting taught how to hack, that's what. And apart from her being an ex-villain and teaching me how to hack, there wasn't much else wrong with the situation. And she wasn't even hacking into the school. Sei was just hacking into my home computer so she could teach me how to hack. Okay, time to be filled in. Why I wanted to learn how to hack? Great question. Just did. I think it would be useful in its own way, and I have many ways of using it, seeing half the world runs on technology. It was always something I'd wanted to learn but had no one to teach me. So who better than the one person who tried and probably could have hacked into UA, which if you haven't noticed is run by goddamn Nizu of all people, or animal. Whatever, anyway, it helped that Gentle and 𝗬𝗏𝗏 joined a rehab class and are now trying to contain law by being an informant and vigilante. Is this getting more illegal as I keep talking? Yes it is, but in the large picture, who cares? They're in a whole other city and are only helping people in need, so I don't see any problem. So yes, that's why it was great when 𝗬𝗏𝗏 contacted me to inform that after meeting me they are turning a new leaf. Then they went on to say that if I ever needed help they would be there for me, which I of course shut down immediately. But they were insistent. So what better than to use that chase to get myself a great teacher to teach me one of the skills I've always wanted to learn. So yes, I've been learning hacking for the past few months. This was our first class in 2 weeks. The classes had to be put on hold because of large job they both had. Hi, brava. And I'm as ready as ever. I say, just as enthusiastic. Hi, young hero, don't take her seriously, she's just happy that she had a student that she can act strict with. I hear Gentle's voice and Brava's spluttering and mad reply. I laugh and reply happily. I smile as I see the second cursor on my computer screen indicating that Brava has hacked into my computer. Well, not really hacked, seeing I gave her permission, but let's do this. I said, the usual excitement that I feel when doing something I like, creeping into my voice. Izawa's POV sighed, closing my eyes and relishing in the feeling of my comfortable chair and the slightly. Normally he wasn't one to like fancy things, he especially did not like the way Nizu spends billions on the school in the most unnecessary parts of it. But one thing that he could just maybe appreciate is the amount of facilities and comfortable furniture the teachers had access to. "Let me in, I need to talk with Eraserhead and Vault King and Izu," came a gruff voice from outside the staff room. A very distinctive gruff voice, one that belonged to a certain number 1 hero that was constantly on fire, quite literally. He cracked his eye open to see Midnight at the door with a too bright hero at the other side. Sighing, he opened both eyes and shook his head and got up. "Of course those advantages come with more drawbacks than I willingly signed up for," he thought as he got up to meet the flaming trash can. Hero. It didn't take any genius to guess what the flaming hero was here for. He already had pretty a good idea that it was probably about a certain group of villains that wouldn't leave him and his students alone. Or was it the other way? Because he swears his problem children, especially a certain green-haired one, were the one who keeps chasing the villains. Izuku's POV, achoo. I've been doing that a lot lately, hopefully I haven't caught a cold, I think. I sniffed before shrugging and continued trying to do some certain work on his computer, and he means hacking promptly, still ignoring the food I had only half eaten next to it. About 5 minutes later, I felt the distinctive feeling of someone else in the dorms. That can't be right. Mr. Aizawa doesn't come back for at least another 5 hours, I thought, looking at the time that showed 10 a.m. as I shut down my computer and made my way downstairs. I was met with a surprising sight of Todoroki-kun standing at the bottom of the stairs. "Todoroki-kun, what are you doing here? You just came yesterday," I exclaimed. "Hi Midoriya. My dad came over for work and I hitched a ride. I didn't think I would get another chance seeing we were advised that we stay in our houses," he said, a small smile appearing when I bounded down the stairs to meet him. "Okay, that makes sense. How long do you have? You have to leave when Endeavor's done with the work, don't?" I ask as I lead him to my dorm room. "Yeah, but I have about an hour or so before that," he replied as we made our way up the stairs. 1 hour later, me and Shoto were still in my dorm. Shoto was sitting in my bed listening to music with one AirPod in his right ear. The left AirPod was in mine while I sat at my desk and worked on my 15 analysis book that I had recently started. We had started off with playing a few games of rummy and blackjack, then Uno, then Snap with the normal deck of cards, for God's sake. All that to avoid Monopoly. Of course that didn't work. So at the end, yes, we did end up playing it. After all, what could go wrong? Even if the game's no for ruining relationship in the class, because they all know about the incident where Kacchan blew up the board, that's probably normal though, and the one where Tokoyami and Shiro threw the game out of the window, and the one where Uraraka threw it into the fireplace, and the one where Kaminari, well, you get the point. Me and Shoto are some of the calmest people in the class. So no way that a board game could get out of hand, right? Well, apparently I was wrong. I only started noticing halfway though when Shoto's blank expression was not like his normal blank expression. And when he saw that he tried to lose, he really did. But he couldn't do much when he kept missing Shoto's land and Shoto kept landing on his. Well, that was his K to accidentally mess up the board, therefore ending their game. From there they separate to just listening to music and enjoying the silence like they often did. "Hey, do you want a drink?" "I'm getting 1 inch." I looked up at Shoto as he got out of my bed. "Sure, just get me one of whatever you're getting, thanks," I said, shooting him a smile while he headed outside the room then for using back on my book. I had stopped writing some time ago and was just reading though the information and jotting down any ideas I got. I looked over at Shoto's page in my other book. Right next to it was the well-known villains analysis, 𝗬𝗲𝗍. Did he know that there was a high chance that 𝗬𝗲𝗍 was Shoto's brother? Yes, he did. He had researched literally every single hero in Japan, Limelight, Twilight, Underground, everyone. Of course he had seen that Endeavor had 4 children, one who died and whose body was never found. He had looked and passed on that idea that he could be alive. Of course, every single movie ever made showed if the body wasn't found then the person was most likely alive, even if statistics didn't. But he had passed on the idea. Then 𝗬𝗲𝗍 showed up as a member of the LOV. Again he had passed on the idea. Then he went to the Todoroki's house when doing his internships and found out that they had only found some parts of him, specifically parts of his eye bags and skin from his jaw. Exactly the places that 𝗬𝗲𝗍 had stitched on his face. He went through the reasonings about a couple billion times and couldn't come up with any other conclusions. But what was he meant to do? Go ask. No, that would make him no better than when Shoto asked if he was All Might's love child. Like really? Do we look similar? He loves the Todoroki family, he really did. But he did sometimes with it would give him less trauma and depression and not keep him awake for multiple nights. But what did he know? That was probably just him overthinking. All in all, I'm just happy that the family's starting to get back together. And well, if I'm right, at least Toya is alive. So yes, I'm going to ignore ever making that discovery and beg any gods out there that I'm wrong or right. I don't know at this point, though, as I closed my 14th book and went back to the 15th. Just in time to as Shoto spears with 2 cans of Sprite in his hands and hands one to me. Thanks, I say with a nod. Continued looking at my book. Midoriya. I hear an uncertain voice. Looking up I see Shoto hovering above me uncertainly. Yes, anything wrong, Shoto? I ask, confusion evident on my face as I turn to meet his own confused face. Is that another language in your book? Yes. Oh, I think in my head, but before I can answer I hear, Shoto. It's time to go. I need to get back to my agency. Shoto gave out a huff and rolled his eyes before saying, guess I'll be going now. I'll see myself out. See you later then, I'll see if I can visit you in between, okay? He says as he heads out my bedroom. See you later, thanks for visiting. I yell out as he makes his way out. I turn back to my desk, saved by the bell, I thought. Because honestly, how could I tell him that I once got so bored when I was 7 and made my own secret language for about 5 months? And I mean actually my own language. I took the time to make my own alphabet, which had 137 characters, and learned some parts of other languages to implement into my own. He would definitely laugh. In defense, I was bored from reading storybooks, so that lasted a while before I managed to get my hands on some higher-level sciences, math and English books. And because I had no idea what to do with the language, I now write all my hero analysis using it. That way it has a purpose so that no one finds out about the quirks I write about. Because I do know that just knowing a person's quirk could be a big disadvantage to some people. Take Shinso for example. Letting out a small puff of air, I got up. After all, I had promised myself to get a candy apple ready for Eri when she came back from her play school. I wanted to give it as a reward to her after we did some more training with the bow stick. She's been asking me about playing together in the gym again since yesterday afternoon. I wash my hands and get out everything I would need and crack my knuckles. Let's do this, I think happily as I get to making the sweet. Izuku's POV. I listened and hummed at some of the interesting things the bundle of energy was excitedly telling me as we made our way to the staff room. Eri had come back from her play school happy and full of energy. Taking pity of my slightly overwhelmed teacher, 𝗵𝗃 had the role of picking up Eri today. I decided to take Eri off his hands. Though it was a surprise when, half an hour into her explanation of her and her friend's adventure, that she asked to go and play in the training room and if Shoal could learn how to use the stick weapon more. And of course he would never say no. So that how they had gotten to the training room about 1 and ended up training and polying till 3. Eri had gotten tried by the end and had watched me train for about another half an hour before she had gotten the idea to do some water painting. They had then gone and painted, borrowing some supplies from the art room. Eri had ended up painting many mountains and flowers while he had tried to paint Eri, using the way he sketches people in his notebook as a guide. Eri had then finished and looked over to see his painting. Then, claiming that it was the best painting in the world, asked him if they could show Aizawa and the other teacher. He had said no at first but had then gave in when she said that she also wanted to her own paintings. So yes, they were walking through the 2 large halls of UA, with 3 canvases, heading to one of the 2 places he had been trying to steer clear of. What he wasn't expecting was to be met with the eye-blinding red feathers of hawks. He had really wondered and wanted to ask if the hero had considered to spray paint his feathers black, because as much of a limelight hero he was, he also knew that hawks did many underground work. Having darker colors that would make it easier for stealth missions, right? Though, before he could continue his inner turmoil or try to use Hawk's visit as an excuse to turn and head the way he was coming back from, he and Eri were suddenly called by an enthusiastic present Mike. Internally sighing, he smiled as he and Eri made their way to the 5 heroes standing in the doorway. Eri slightly hiding behind him as she noticed there was someone new there. "Hi." What are you two kids doing here? Miss Midnight said with a smile. This seemed to take away Aries' nervousness as she suddenly smiled and made her way over to her, enthusiastically with the 3 canvases in her hand, waving the portrait of herself. Miss Midnight led her inside the staff room, leaving him to stand awkwardly with the 4 other heroes. I shot a nervous smile at All Might, Aizawa and Mike, and I tried to think of a way to communicate to ask if they wanted me to leave, or if I could leave. That though was however swept out of his mind. How are you doing? Midoriya, right? I met you a few times when you were interning with 𝗵𝘃𝗲, said with an enthusiastic tone. Weiss, that's me, I'm doing good, how about you? I said, stuttering as he caught me off guard. I'm doing as well as ever, so not good, I think, as he continues. Now, what is a baby bird doing at school in the middle of the holidays? I smiled. My mum was sent on a work trip, she's gone the entire holiday, so I'm kinda just hanging out here for the holidays, because they have the dorm system already and everything, I say. A frown showed on his face as we made our way inside the staff room and stood near the couch. Really, you're here all holidays? With no friends? He exclaimed. Of course not, I have Eri and plus there's a bunch of things to do here and my class has been visiting me. Also, what are you doing here? And not that it's my business or anything, just that you didn't graduate from UA and I'd figured that most pros that come here are graduates and, well, never mind, it's probably for some work, I didn't mean to pry, I say quickly, stuttering at the end. Hawks takes a moment to stare at me. Wow, you didn't even take a breath. He said, to which I just tilt my head at confused. Yup, he's like that, if I didn't know better I'd say that's his second quirk, Mike said, slightly laughing at Hawk's expression. Mr. Aizawa just grunted in acknowledgement. Anyway, what I'm doing is no big secret, actually you're quite involved in it. I've been added into the LOV's case and I just wanted to collect any information the school has on it, Hawks said with a smile. I nodded in understanding, then put a hand to my chin thinking, and then, that's a really good lie, I said thoughtfully. And then promptly froze, realizing a couple moments too late that I had said my though out loud. Looking up slowly, I hoped that they had maybe not heard what I said. No such luck. Mr. Aizawa was looking at me with a raised eyebrow while Mike had a completely confused face. And if to make the whole situation better, Hawks did a closed-eye smile and said a happy thanks, while rubbing his neck with his hand, then also promptly decided to freeze and open his eyes, staring at me in shock. I hadn't noticed before, but Midnight and Eri had left the room earlier while the other pros had become silent and tuned into their conversation. So now he has a whole room of pro heroes staring bullets into him. I don't know whether I should be surprised to the fact that Problem Child just said you were lying, or the fact that you just admitted to it came from, surprisingly, Mr. Aizawa. I meant, that if you've been added to the case you would have already gotten the information about LOV because it's also with the Hero Commission, if you joined the case, and that you probably came here for a different reason, that you probably can't tell me about. Sorry I didn't want to pry, I am sorry I got to go now. I have homework to finish. I said, bolting out of the room. About a minute later I slapped myself as I sat on my bed in my dorm room. God damn it. It's the holidays, why would I say I have homework? Of course I knew about the number 2's work. And I can see his work time at day decreasing, that, with the fact that he showed was in the fight with 𝗵𝘃𝗲 against the Nomus and Dabi, I'd say the Hero Commission made him infiltrate the LOV probably, but that doesn't mean I can say that to the hero. I'm quite sure the whole mission's been kept a secret from other heroes. I'm so dumb, I think, as I face plant into my pillow. Aizawa's POV. For catching a lie, Midoriya tells some really bad ones. What homework does he have? Also, what did you lie about Hawks? I hear Mike say next to me as I look over to him, ripping my eyes away from the door. Well, pretty much to the part he said, can't really say why, I have to talk with Nizu first, but how in the world did he know I got the information from the Hero Commission? No public member should know that I work directly with the Hero Commission, Hawks said with a dumbfounded expression on his face. No point of asking, he knew who I was, and the public is also not even meant to know that underground heroes exist, so I wouldn't question it at this point, I said with a huff. All that kid does is be where he's not meant to be and know what he's not meant to know. Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on him, I said. Of course, Young Midoriya is quite observant and smart, All Might says, pride evident in his face and voice. You'd think that he taught him that, I think, a bit irritated. All Might can't teach to save his own life. Mike slowly just shook his head in agreement while Hawks just nodded after a moment. Of course. I think I have to go and speak with 𝗍𝗬 now, he said, still recovering from the shock as he made his way out the room. The other staff, seeing that the show is over, returned to their work, quietly whispering about what just happened. Me and Mike just shared a look before I let out a huff and moved, making my way to my desk. Hawk's POV, I spread my wings and flew the moment I got out of the school building. I have to go back and report to the commotion about 𝗍𝗬's answer, but that has to wait. I had a person to visit first, though, as I flew and found the building for 𝗏's dorms and made my way over. Flying over to the room which had a kid sitting on the desk inside, I landed on the balcony and knocked, gaining his attention. I tied the handle and surprisingly it opened. It's not a good idea to leave your door open. What if you get kidnapped? I say jokingly as I entered the room, eyes slightly widening at the amount of hero merch the kid had. Hawks, hi. I didn't think of that, seeing UA is known for its security, and well, I doubt a glass door is going to keep villains out. I keep it open most the time because I go out there a lot, the kid says, stuttering every now and then. You've got quite a keen eye, I say as I spot a merch of myself on the shelves. Blushing red, the kid says, about earlier, I'm sorry, I like to overthink a lot of things and I kind of figured something out. I'm sorry, I won't do it again, he said quickly. I smile. No problem, kid, just means that I have to get better at my lying skills, I say jokingly. Then suddenly getting an idea, I pluck out a feather from my wings and hand it to him. He looks at me, tilting my head, face screaming confusion and looking a bit too similar to a confused puppy. You've been eyeing my wings every time we've met, I figured you wanted to touch one of my feathers, I said. He blushed before taking the feather carefully and holding it. A moment later he hands it back. Thank you, it's just you have school a interesting quirk, and well, I like quirks a lot, and he trailed off. I laughed at his antics. No problem, kid, keep the feather, I'll be going now, have some more work to do, and some paperwork. Good luck with your homework, I say, sarcasm evident in my voice. Before the kid could however get back into a rant, I turn and head outside, flapping my wings and taking off into the air. Aizawa's POV, I was walking to 𝗍𝗬's office. Why? Honestly, no idea. For now. Anyway, it's Thursday evening, and all I wanted to do was get a good nap before my patrol. But of course, just as my paperwork ends, I'm getting called to the office. And I'm about 100% certain the rat did this on purpose. Why did I choose to become a teacher as well as an underground hero again? What was I thinking, really? Mike was like, it'll be great, 1 job's a day and another at night, the times won't crash with each other. It's a genius plan and all, except for the problem that I'll have no time for, life. And he doesn't ask much of life, just some food, coffee, sleep and peace. So far he's only getting 2 of those, and it's not the sleep or peace. I sighed, bringing my hand up to knock, already knowing that it would open on its own. And just on cue it opens. I walk in with a dead expression on my face. 𝗍𝗬, I greet. Hello Aizawa, would you like some tea? He asked with that same polite smile on his face. No, I'd like to know why you've called me. I have a patrol and I don't feel like going though it with no sleep, I deadpanned. Okay, maybe I'm not the role model worker you want to keep in mind when you're talking to your boss, but what can I do? I haven't had coffee for a good hour and even less sleep. That's normal though. Yes, I'll get to the point then. I've heard from your coworkers that you've been locked up in either the office or your dorm room unless you're on patrol recently. And I must say it isn't good for humans, or most animals really, to not get sunlight. And I'll have you know that lack of sunlight is the cause of a weakened body, and as you are a hero we cannot have that happening, can we now? So I suggest that you take a day off tomorrow. 𝗍𝗬 finished with a smile. Aizawa wanted to cry. Cross that, he doesn't cry, he wanted to bang his head into the wall. Of course his 2 pushy co-workers or friends, not that he will never admit it, tell 𝗍𝗬. About half the heroes in the staff room had been trying to get him to go out, but he, being the introvert and shut-in, he declined and disappeared before they could protest or give another argument. So they had gotten 𝗍𝗬 involved, not that if he had kept it up for another week, 𝗍𝗂 would have taken matters into his own hands anyway. I opened his mouth to protest in any way possible, but was cut off. And I would like you to give these folders to your friend, Detective 𝗬𝗂𝗁𝗍𝗂𝗁. He's let me borrow them but needs these official copies back, 𝗍𝗂 sighed with a knowing smile. So, how's that? You still get some work done and then you can take the rest of the day off to do whatever you would like. I don't mind delivering the files, but I have nothing to do outside and would rather I got some work done. I began. Knock knock Izuku's POV. It was just another day doing something random, like usual. By random I mean learning how to do more hacking. It was a peaceful day and I managed to get through it without being suspicious or getting into trouble, yay me. However, fate seems to be making a joke out of my life because the moment I got a message. Not any messages but an email, and not any email but an email from 𝗍𝗂 himself. Look at my luck. Wow, really what has my life come to? I however didn't have much time to complain too much about fate or the world before my mind was taken by the fact that I just got a message from 𝗍𝗂. While I was learning to hack. Did I get caught? No, this is my home computer and it's not even connected to his school's internet, but I can't really put anything past 𝗍𝗂. Did he find out that I was talking with 𝗵𝗲𝗍 and 𝗫𝗏𝗀? Oh God, did he find out that I've been sending letters to Stain? Wait, no, he should know that by now anyway, right? I've been sending them while in school after all. Well, putting the disaster that's called my mind away, I got up numbly and made my way to the office, making sure my expression was as guilt-free and clueless as it could be. Reaching his office I knocked. Or tried to. Aizawa's POV. Hello, come in, 𝗍𝗂 stated. The door opened before the person could open it and in came, Problem Child. I narrowed my eyes slightly at 𝗍𝗂. I hadn't noticed it before but his smile hid his sadistic glint under them. The feeling that something wasn't quite right that I had been ignoring till now. God, I've really got to start listening to my instincts more, especially when it comes to 𝗍𝗂. I add a metal note in my head. Hello, you emailed me. Problem Child said, as if unsure if talking more will get him into trouble. His eyes flicked all around the room, almost as if searching for an escape route. His eyes, however, flicked between me and 𝗍𝗂 quite a few times. His face wore a confused and worried expression and I could practically hear his brain gears working. What he was thinking about is a different story though. But if what I think is right then, hello Midoriya, I called you over here to tell you that Aizawa is free tomorrow and can take you outside wherever you would like to go, he stated. What? I said I would do no such thing. I'm quite busy tomorrow without taking a kid out for a field trip, I said at the same time. Problem Child said, really? Is Mr. Aizawa okay with it? With a happy smile on his face. That smile immediately turned into a frown when he processed what I had said. Principal 𝗍𝗂, thanks for the opportunity but I really don't need to go out for anything. I don't want to inconvenience Mr. Aizawa. And I've been going out and getting enough exercise and my friends have come over. I really don't need to go out, he said with a small but firm smile. I almost felt bad about my instant rejection. After all, he's been stuck here all holidays. No wonder he's wanted to get out to the forest. 𝗍𝗂 never dropped his smile for a moment. Quickly replying with, I'm sure you are, but Aizawa here has been inside pretty much since the holidays have started and doesn't have a good reason to go out and also, might I add, won't stop working, he said in the same dead calm voice. However, I could pretty much hear the smirk in his voice. Of course, even if Problem Child is firm in his decision, he could always guilt-trip him into it anyway. I just glared at him silently. I'm sorry, but if Mr. Aizawa doesn't want to go out then I would rather not force him to go out, he said, surprising me slightly. I'm sure that's true, but Aizawa has some work outside. It would really help if you could accompany him and get his mind off work for a while, 𝗍𝗂 said, ever so persistent. Problem Child just looked conflicted at this point and kept glancing between me and 𝗍𝗂, stuttering and tripping over his words before falling silent again. God, 𝗍𝗂's just going to torture us like this until we give in, isn't he? I though and sighed internally. 𝗍𝗂 however seems to have noticed as he looked over at me with a wider smile. Problem Child was still looking between me and 𝗍𝗂 with confusion and worry. Let's get this over and done with. God, this is why he planned this during my nap time, isn't it? I'd be too tired to care much. Well, at least Problem Child will get some fresh air. I'll be able to get through one day, I think as I sigh out loud. Fine, I'll take your files over for the police and spend the day outside. Problem child, I have nowhere I need to go other than the police station, so you can pick anywhere you want to go, I say, turning to problem child. Mr. Izuku, really, I don't need to go out. If you're doing it for me, then it's really not necessary, and I'd rather not get in the way of you. I cut him off with a shake of my head. Nizu is still my boss for one of my jobs, and knowing how he is, I'm sure that he won't let me do work until I take a day off to take a breather, and seeing I don't have anything to do, I might as well let you move about a bit. Probably not good to keep kids trapped in one spot anyway. I drowned out my talk in favor of watching the smile on Nizu's face grow larger. Well, I guess that's decided then. Izuku, I'll need you to take the papers up by 9, and you can spend the rest of the day outside as you see fit, Nizu says, finalizing the decision. However, I was quickly brought back to earth when I glanced at problem child. His eyes were watery and he had a wobbly smile on his face. He quickly wiped his eyes. Bowing deeply, he says, "Thank you, Principal Nizu, Mr. Izuku." With a smile. I can't help but feel a bit present with my decision if it made him that happy. Yeah, just make sure you don't cause too many problems, I said. But who am I kidding? Knowing my luck, he's probably going to do just that. I probably just jinxed it, I thought, internally sighing as I watched problem child beam his smile. Nizu also seems to have been lost for words after that smile. However, he managed to pull himself back together. Okay then, you're dismissed. I suggest you meet Izuku at the staff room at 8 the latest so you can make it to the police office in time. You're dismissed, Midoriya, Nizu pretty much chirps, knowing he got what he wanted. I watch as he bows once more and takes his leave. Izuku, Nizu says, catching my attention again. Watch him carefully, he's got a lot of potential and I'd rather not waste it, Nizu chirps again as he pours himself another cup of tea. I just grunt and take my leave, knowing the conversation is over. Guess tomorrow's going to be an interesting day? I think I probably didn't know how interesting it would turn out to be.